guys, Swapshop here with some tips on how to improve your ganking. Now these tips will help you the most if you are new to jungling, but even if you consider yourself an experienced jungler and just want to improve your ganking, then you may learn a thing or two from this video. So the first tip to improve your ganking is to hold on to your gap closer or your CC. One of the biggest mistakes that I see when it comes to ganking is that people will use their gap closers or their skill shots to try and engage or initiate the gank, and a lot of the times what happens is that the enemy will either juke it or they'll dodge it or you'll just miss and you'll get nothing out of it. In addition to this, if the enemy has a gap closer of their own or they have their flash up, if you have used your own gap closer to initiate that gank, then when they use theirs, you have nothing to follow it up with. If you have instead held on to your gap closer, then when the enemy uses theirs, you can follow it up and you have a high chance of securing that kill. And aside from just being able to follow up, there are two other benefits of holding on to your gap closers. Firstly, the further away you are from the enemy when you fire that skill shot, the higher chance you have of missing. Even if you have great accuracy, that's what's going to happen. So if you get close to them, you lower the chance of you missing that skill shot. Secondly, and this is kind of like an unofficial or psychological benefit, is that the enemies often overduke skill shots if you still have them up. So they actually try so hard to not get hit by your skill shot, trying so hard to dodge it, that they end up just not running away from you, giving you time to walk up to them and secure an easy kill. Of course, there will be times when the only way you can get into your gank is by using your skill shot or your gap closer, and that's fine, that's unavoidable. But where you can do it, you should be holding on to those things. To give you an example of what I'm talking about, say you are playing Liên, instead of using your Q as soon as you got in range with the enemy, walk up to them or maybe even use your W to get closer to them, use your E, punch them a little bit, and then only use that Q when you have an easy hit or after they've used their flash. The second tip on how to improve your ganking is to plan your route ahead of time. By your route, I don't just mean your gank route, like where you're going to come from, but also your jungle route, so what camps you're going to clear before you go for that gank. And the reason why you want to plan ahead is to best avoid the ward spots that the enemy has covered. Even if your gank route takes you 3 times as long to run to your target destination than the shorter route, it's usually worth your time to do that in order to guarantee that kill. If you take the short route and it's warded, then you're going to be wasting even more time than you would have wasted by running the longer distance. Say for example you are on blue side, which is on the left, and you wanted to go gank your top lane. However, it's most likely going to be warded in the river because that's where most top laners ward. So instead of going wolves, white and then top through that river, if you plan ahead and instead go white, wolves and then run through their jungle, up past their red buff and through their tri-bush and gank the top laner from behind, that gank is going to have much higher chance of success than your other gank, which is rushed and impatient and will be sloppy. And the last tip to help you improve your ganking is to show an appropriate appreciation for the cooldowns of enemy summoner spells and also to time those cooldowns. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to know that if the enemy doesn't have their flash, then chances are they're going to be an easier kill. Ganking is very similar to a strip joint in that regard. If you see someone flash, then you feel more invited to pay them a visit. At the beginning of the game, it often pays dividends to ask your teammates to tell you when the enemies have used their flash. Now this won't happen all of the time, but the communication will never hurt you. By having this and also making note of when the enemy flashes you if you go to do a gank, you can often get a decent understanding of what enemies have their flashes up. You can time some of the spells in the same way that you will be timing a dragon or a baron, knowing that the default cooldown for flash at this moment in time upon making this video is 5 minutes or 300 seconds. However, you also have to be aware of any potential masteries that might be changing the cooldowns of certain summoner spells. At this moment in time upon making this video, there is a mastery in the utility tree which reduces summoner spell cooldowns by up to 10%. And because there's no way for you to know what exact rune page or mastery page that the enemies are using, you can't tell if someone has this mastery. Or can you? When you press tab and see the scoreboard, you will see the summoner spells that each champion has taken. When you hover over those summoner spells, you will see the cooldown of those spells. However, a little known fact is that the cooldown shown is the cooldown that that specific champion has, not that that summoner spell has by default. So if someone has taken that 10% summoner spell cooldown reduction mastery, then when you hover over their flash, it will say 270 seconds instead of 300 seconds. This means you can accurately time those summoner spells for when you want to be monitoring them for your ganks. That's all the tips I want to give today, guys. I don't want to make this video too long. I want to keep it relatively short. Let me know in the comments what you thought, or if you have any other questions or any other ideas. Feel free to give the video a like if you found it useful, and you can subscribe to me where I do educational League content alongside a little bit of entertaining stuff as well. You can find me on my Facebook or my Twitter, and also catch me streaming on Twitch. But thanks very much for watching, guys, and I will see you in my next video.